NGE, Nobody Dies Chapter 8, Bringing the Thunder, an Evangelion fanfic. The floors of the facility speed by, as in the confines of the lift, the pilot fits on the last of the suit. Based on the notes they were able to acquire, they managed to make a working replica, given with their own modifications to the design. The plug suit was specialized, but their version, they decided, needed to work with a bit better utility. Over the skin-tight fabric, armor is fitted. Not one plate, but segments, allowing the armor to breathe, but at the same time allowing flexibility and contact between the pilot and the liquid medium of the cockpit. Fitting and twisting on gloves, the interface dials on the back of the palms glow, spinning to life as woven and processors hum with comforting warmth. The shoulder harness and plates move with the suit, preventing it from getting caught or rendering her immobile. The plates around her thin waist curve downwards, allowing full freedom to move her legs, the blue piping running down the outside of the limbs glowing in the faint light of the elevator. Rolling shoulders, rolling neck, she fits the last of the helmet on. As it closes over her face, the respirator and filter come to life, the triangular trickle optical display glowing as the black screen in front of her eyes flicker and show her a crystal clear vision of the inside of the lift. "Okay, this is Rusty," she says, her voice clear, young, chipper, suits up and running. "I'm running connection system diagnostics. How's Big Guy?" "Rusty, this is Sync. Big Guy is undergoing final system startups. We have spotted the ET-designated Angel, Ramiel at 15 miles outside of Tokyo 3 proper. We have sent Agent to Nerve to clear the way." She flexes her fingers, the signal sent and received. Her view of the world lights up, shifting between wireframe, thermal, night vision. Windows open around her face, showing the image of the Earth far below, the outside of the facility, and the inside of the launch bay. Soon enough, she thinks, she'll be there herself. Power settings, sensitivity controls, and mass ratio readings chime off. A general power meter, the operational power reading of the code-named Big Guy, appears on the right side of her screen, confirming system primary activation. Excellent, she thinks. And her smile only grows wider as the elevator passes into the central cavity of the bay. It stands 250 feet tall. Its shape is humanoid, gunmetal gray and polished titanium plating at the extremities. Its torso is made up of the same type of moving plates as the suit she wears, venting heat from its central core. The shoulders are massive, ending sloped downwards in massive vents, the head a raised circular dome jutting forward from the body between the shoulders, a honeycomb display of opaque gold plates serving as the sensory grid. She clenches her right fist. In response, the right fist of the massive robot clenches as well. The center of its chest glows blue as the main reactor comes online, steam issuing from the sides. Technicians cheer, personnel clearing the area as the lift stops, exiting onto a catwalk leading to the massive robot's head. "Rusty, this is Sync. Primary system startups complete. We are beginning secondary systems check and we are beginning primary startup for the delivery system. ETA for Jet-alone prime launch is at T-5 hours and counting. Let's get this show on the road." Chapter 8, Bringing the Thunder. With every motion, the air around the Angel vibrates, creating music and song. The song is not human, a vibration of noise sounding like a gothic shout announcing its presence to the world. The cry of the Angel of Thunder reverberates, as the eight-sided diamond of the clearest crystal blue crosses the horizon. The beautiful and sublime form of Ramiel has come to Tokyo 3. Wisely, the humans flee. Tokyo 3 is at full evacuation to J-front shelters, Lieutenant Hyuga Makoto announces, taking a second to push his glasses back up his nose, converting Tokyo 3 to battle configuration. The screen of Central Dogma flips to showing a cross-section diagram of the city. The tallest buildings shift and move, dropping into place at the barrier between Tokyo 3 and the J-front. Several screens turn to the cameras above ground, watching as skyscrapers drop into their holding pens, suspended miles above the different floor as plate steel doors close, reducing Tokyo 3 from a bustling metropolis to a series of low apartment buildings and armor plating as far as the eye can see. Arms folded, eyebrow twitching, Misato Katsuragi watches the displays, a direct feed from the cage detailing Unit 01's final preparations. "How'd it go?" Ritsuko asks, the brunette scientist ambling up next to her. "It was Kaiji," Misato responds, "he was my blind date." Ritsuko sucks on her teeth, nodding. "That had to be awkward," she says. "What did you do when he broke up with you, again?" "Set his car on fire," she responds, twisting her lip as Maya calls out activation procedures. "I'm not sure, 'cause he acted surprised, too. But, he's a lying bastard half the time, so he probably set him up." "What did you do?" "Drugged his wine, tied him up, threatened him with my stun gun to find out who sent him." Ritsuko stares at her, smiles, and turns back to the screen. "Kinky," she says, "just like college." Snorting and muttering a dirty word, Misato walks over to Makato's console and picks up the walkie-talkie. Clicking it on, standing up straight, Shinji's face appears on the screen, faint yellow and immersed in LCL. "Okay," she says, "we're sending you out first because you have the most functional experience with the angels and we haven't been able to find Ray." "Is she alright?" Shinji asks. "We don't know," Misato says with a sigh, "but she's a tough girl. She knows her job and she'll show up eventually. Ready?" He nods. "Good luck," says, wishing her words sounded sincere. EVA launch. Plates slide out of place. If one could see far enough, one could look down the hole and stare all the way into the cages. This would be a bad idea, however, as the entrance plates sliding open means 15,000 tons of giant robot is heading your way via electric railway. Alarms blare, rails flash, and the carriage carrying the purple and green giant stops at the surface as the great form of the seventh angel clears the mountains surrounding Tokyo 3. "Angels in visual," Shinji announces, a 20-story skyscraper rising next to him and opening into an armory. "Let's see." "OKI, rocket launcher." Grabbing the massive tube, Unit 01 rests the end on its shoulder, a sight folding out of Shinji's chair and resting over his eye. "Shinji, we have no idea what its offensive or defensive capabilities are," Yui says in his ear. "Engage it from extreme range only." Targeting crosshairs line up. The whine in Shinji's ear sounds with the lock on the missile on the Angel. A small grin crosses his face, and with nary a thought, he depresses the trigger. Unit 01 shakes with the launch vibration, stumbling back as the missile larger than most conventional military aircraft fires out, breaking into supersonic speed as it crosses the distance and slams into the blue crystal. The explosion blossoms out, cracking the hull of the Angel and sending pieces of blue crystal raining down. Shinji allows himself a grin, telescoping through the launcher's sights, and watches the crystal knit itself back in. Through the crystal, he can see something, too, a pair of shapes and eyes. A view which is obscured when the entire bulk of the Angel turns at him. A point of light appears at the edge of the diamond. The entire form shatters, becoming a horizontal cylinder of spinning blue plate with a red sphere at the center. Light gathers at the point, lancing out the distance and painting the chest of Unit 01 with a gentle pink glow. In the entry plug, Shinji allows himself a moment to realize exactly what is about to happen. Oh, sh. The light blasts out of the opposite end of the Angel before blasting into a massive wave of light. Between the Angel and the Evangelion, anything standing vaporizes, before the blast hits Unit 01 full-on. In Central Dogma, they can only watch as the blast hits, the paint already starting to peel as the armor begins to heat up. Then comes the scream. Yui's eyes go wide as her son screams in pain, in agony, his sync score coming back to bite him on the ass as he feels Unit 01 getting roasted alive by the Angel. "Cut the connections!" she shouts. We can't. Maya yells, the blast fried all external receivers. The platform's been melted. Fine, then. Misato screams, eject the entry plug. Signals are being rejected. We can't even get any commands in through the power line. He screams. His entire body feels like it's on fire, the LCL around him boiling. He can feel the Eva scream, too. Pain, real pain, not just like when the angel broke his arm or when the Eva got whacked in the ribs. His mind is burning, his throat raw, and now he realizes he's been screaming for nearly a minute and a half and then blackness. The eyes of the Evangelion glow yellow. Falling to its knees, it slams both fists into the pavement, splintering concrete and rending steel before the block around the Eva outlines with detonating explosives. The entire block, the intersection of the street, lurches before splintering and falling away, metal plates sliding into place to mask the entryway into the G-front from the advancing angel. In the plug, as his heart begins to slow to a stop, Shinji watches as if dreaming as the great ceiling of G-front falls away. His hands leave the butterfly controls, hanging in the weightless freefall as his eyes close. And the entire entry plug jerks as Unit 01 impacts on the G-front. At 6 years old, Shinji was a little shorter than most boys his age, but not so much so to stand out. In fact, he blended in really well, something which he prided himself in. People were less likely to pick on someone who didn't stand out, after all. Why attack a crowd than attack the ones who trailed ahead or behind? Mom was still walking with a cane, and his father had no expression, and they were helping him get settled in with uncle and aunt. Mom and father were both busy, after all, and they couldn't take care of him. Besides, father told him, Mom had already been badly hurt, and neither of them wanted to think about what would happen if he was hurt, too. What happened to her? I remember. Bathroom door slams open. Father's face turns white. Ambulance arrives. Professor Fu at the hospital, father getting held back from attacking the doctor. Aunt Noko screaming something at father, father yelling back. Mom was crying, harder than they've ever seen her cry. She wouldn't let go of Shinji when he was brought into the room, telling them. Lying on the field of grass, the sun shines white above him. His breath is caught in his throat. His mind is wandering, memories flashing in front of his eyes. Cardiac massage in 3, 2. The world shifts. He feels the ground move. He must have died, and now they're trying to bring him back. That explains the memories. His life is flashing before his eyes. What if I die? He asks aloud. Then Unit 01 will be useless, the voice responds. Nerve will have no hope of destroying the angel. Everyone will die. Do you want that? A flash. A small smile, blue eyes. No. Then get up. His eyes open with a start. Taking a deep breath, he winces. His skin is sensitive and pink. Remembering the lecture about synchronization, but remembering the LCL feeling like it was boiling, he carefully props himself onto his elbows, scanning the infirmary recovery room. Same TV bolted on the wall, same chairs and cabinets. His gaze wanders over towards the door, and finally the chair next to his bed. Hands clasped together, shoulders shaking as she breathes, Asuka gives off a relieved smile as he slowly, painfully, returns it. Hey, he groans. Hi, she responds, why you were out for 3 hours? He nods. Why you were clinically dead for 15 minutes, she continues, fingers trembling on the hem of her dress. Unit 01P prevented brain death, and we're not sure how. And the angel is parked topside, so we can't get out, and tears start streaming down. Clenching her eyes shut, gritting her teeth, she goes silent, arms wrapped around her as Shinji tries to sit up but finds the varied monitors he has been hooked up to preventing such an act. Asuka, Misato says, standing in the doorway, I need to speak with Shinji. Dr. Ikari could use your help. Yes, Mom, Asuka softly says, and walks out. She watches the girl going, sighing as she turns back to him. Walking, she drapes her bomber jacket on the chair before sitting down, folding her hands as she leans forward and grins. She was at your side the moment you came in, Misato says. Well, the moment your mother let visitors in. I don't know how, I don't know why. I'd say it's because you're her boss's son, but that would be a bit too cynical, and I honestly don't know Asuka well enough. He nods, lying back on the bed. So, she says, we're putting together a plan to kill the angel. He nods, again. You almost got fried, Misato continues. Asuka wasn't kidding. Your heart stopped for 15 minutes, and you were basically dead. Unit 01 kept you preserved for lack of a better word, and we brought you back. If it were up to me, you'd never be in that thing. But we don't control who can pilot. We just make sure the angels die. Why do you hate the angels? He asks. She sighs, resting her elbows on her knees, leaning forward. A small chuckle escapes her lips, and leaning back, crossing her legs, she rolls her head back and smiles. Well, there's a reason. Have time to hear it? I can't get out of the bed, if that's what you're asking. Good, well, let me tell you why. So, in short, the angel is parked in the center of Tokyo 3, using a part of itself as a corkscrew drill, and we have 5 hours until it breaks through. Sipping her coffee, Yui clicks the remote, the display of above-ground Tokyo 3 converting to the armor plates. Give me a status report, she says. The angels penetrated the first 2 armor layers, Lieutenant Oba states, the image shifting back to the angel itself. From what we can see, the angel operates using a kill zone, or a static surrounding area that, if something enters or it is attacked, creates an attack response in the form of a high-powered particle beam. So our main option, Maya adds, is to attack it from outside its kill zone. Unfortunately, the angel's kill zone surrounds all of metropolitan Tokyo 3 and most of the far-distance launch sites. It will attack if we send any EVA to the surface alone. So we need a distraction, Yui says, sipping her coffee again. Where is Lieutenant Colonel Katsuragi? With the pilot. Standing in the doorway, Asuka nods, avoiding her mother's gaze as she walks in. Pilot Ikari has woken up, Dr. Sahu, she says. Katsuragi is with him. She is briefing him on Operation Yashima. Thank you, Asuka, Yui says, affording the girl a smile. Let's go over the basics. Dr. Akagi? The JSSDF loaned us a prototype positron cannon last year to test, the brunette doctor says, puffing her cigarette. With everything else, we never got around to completing it, but we can retrofit it to be fired by an Evangelion. One of the others will be on sniping duty. The other will serve as a distraction. Yui nods, hands folded behind her, gaze focused on Kyogo's face which sports the small beginnings of a smile. Okay, she says, and on Dr. Sahu's recommendation, Unit 02 is on sniper duty. Unit 01 will be equipped with the heat shields to distract the angel while Unit 02 takes the kill shot. Has Section 2 turned up any evidence of Ray? None so far, Makoto sighs, no response from her phone or GPS tracker. She's just disappeared. Very well, Yui says, bracing on the table, begin final preparations. We launch in 4 hours, 30 minutes. Asuka? No response. The door swings. Damn it. Hands clenching and unclenching, she walks down the hall. Jaw set, teeth clenched, daggers of pain shoot up her mouth, but she fights it back like she always does. Find him. She needs to find him. Her mother just sent him out to die and she has to find him. Asuka. Earl runs down the hall, wide-toothy smile on his face. Already in his plug suit, his connectors in his hand, his shoulders are rolled back and he carries himself with pride. Yuri? She quietly asks. Mother and I convinced the doctor to give me a chance, he announces, arms out and wide, and instead of distraction duty, I will be the one to destroy the angel. It looks like I may be catching to your boyfriend. Her lip trembles. Hands tightly clenches, her eyes go wide as saucers at his proud, arrogant grin. WW what? Well, we will be tied on experience killing angels, he laughs, although I will need 2 more to match Ikari's. Still, I prove myself here and I'm not far off. Don't you think? Her breathing goes ragged, the gears of her mind grinding as the situation's gravity sets in. He notices her pallor, his smile dropping slightly. Asuka? He asks, are you all right? He reaches out towards her. She flinches, backing away, as if struck. Don't touch me, she growls. His face twists in confusion. Asuka, I thought you would be proud of this. He reaches out again, grabbing her by the arms. Shoulders shake, teeth grind, and she screams, pushing him back. Eyes bloodshot and puffy, her hands clench and unclench, glaring at him with ferocity he's never seen before. Proud? She asks, I should be proud of you? Eyes meet his. Her voice becomes loud, shrill. Terrified. You sent him out to F_ing die. She screams, don't you F_ing touch me. He never sees her hand move. One moment it was at her side, the next moment he is almost sent to the floor from the force and rage behind her slap, stumbling to the wall with a grunt. You monster. Looking up, he catches a small glimpse of her as she turns the corner and disappears, running the entire way. Wincing as he touches the cheek, he is relieved to find no blood. It may bruise, but it will heal. He will simply say he tripped and fell. Mother need not know the specifics. After all, he doesn't want to see his sister hurt. Dousing the cigarette on the ashtray, Ritsuko groans as she braces her hands on the holographic display. Dr. Ikari and Dr. Saha have already left, leaving the junior partner of the Bitches of Eastwick as they are informally known to figure out the fine details of their plan to save the world. If anything, the younger Dr. Akagi appreciates that she is so often overshadowed by the two, if only because it affords her anonymity. The plan looks workable, senpai, Maya says, snapping her out of her musings. Remember how you said we'd need all the power in Japan to power the cannon? I vaguely recall. Yes, Ritsuko says with a smirk. Well, I went ahead and set up a system, she says. We can remote control all the major substations along the Japan coast to redirect electricity to a series of transformers right outside Tokyo 3. The power lines are already set up, and we'd need about 3 minutes to connect the major transceivers to the cannon once it's topside. Meaning Shinji has 3 minutes as the angel's target, Ritsuko sighs, rubbing the bridge of her nose. The heat shield we have from the decommissioned space shuttle is not lasting that long. Maya nods, touching the hologram of the angel and pulling it down, expanding it to a 2-dimensional fold-out. Stroking her chin, clicking her tongue, Maya carefully examines the system before her with the precision eye, which is the exact reason Ritsuko argued to hire her in the first place. Wait senpai, I think you should see something. Touching the image and drawing her hand up, it zooms in. The two stand close, leaning over it, staring. On the side of the angel, the smooth, flawless blue crystal wall, Ritsuko spots it. The basic outline of a face. And red eyes. Oh my god, Ritsuko says, a grin splitting her face. There she is. Turning to Maya, grinning, she takes her PDA and presses a button. A copy of the image appears on the screen, and with a laugh, she tightly hugs her assistant. Maya's face turns beet red, Ritsuko laughing as she pats her on the back. I'm bringing this to Dr. Ikari, Ritsuko says. Good work, Maya. You just found Ray. Ritsuko runs out, leaving Maya standing in the room by herself. Slowly, tentatively, she brings her hands up and clasps them together. And with a joyous squeal, she tips back and collapses. Silence. Floating in a sea of blue, but he's not sure that blue is water. Rai, where are we? A small chuckle, giggle. We're inside the angel. More silence. Clicking of her tongue as she gathers her thoughts. Looking up, down, around, only blue. Oh my God, Kensuke says, I've been eaten by an angel. More silence. The strangled breathing becomes laughter. And it transforms. I've been eaten by a transformer. I always knew I'd go like this. I can die happy. So, the story behind Second Impact is that 17 years ago, an asteroid the size of a VW Beetle hit Antarctica at about half the speed of light. It vaporized Antarctica, flooded coastal cities, and the resulting environmental damage and wars killed half the human race. Now, this is bullshit. Leaning forward in the chair, Misato grins as Shinji sits up on his bed, legs folded Indian style as he listens attentively. I know, because I was there, she says. You were, he asks, eyes going wide. How? How did you? My father, she interrupts, Shiro Katsuragi, Ph.D. Brilliant, charismatic and a shitty father. My parents never divorced, but no one could tell they were married from how they acted, and well, eventually we badgered my father into doing something with me. So, he relented, and decided to take me on one of his great and many research expeditions. Sipping the bottle of water in her hand, Misato's gaze turns thoughtful. Regretful. Mournful. I don't know what caused it, she says, Second Impact. I know it wasn't a meteor or asteroid. But, when it hit the fan, I was unconscious. So, Dad carried me to the only working escape pod, and put me in. I came to just as the blast wave vaporized him, sealed the thing shut, and threw me out to sea. Reaching into her dress, she holds up the white, cross-shaped pendant. He gave me this, she says, right before he died. I was told that whatever happened in Antarctica also woke the angels. So in a way, the angels are responsible for Second Impact. My father's death. Some may bit's vengeance, and I shouldn't drag you into this. But if we do nothing, the other half of humanity goes down the drain. A small, wistful smile on her face. The ticking clock on the wall counts down seconds, as she stands and squeezes his shoulder. Let's get going, she says, we save the world in just under 4 hours. The cup of coffee is light with cream and an unhealthy amount of sugar, but tastes like honey on her tongue. Sitting across from him in the nerve cafeteria, the shaking of her shoulders slowly, steadily relaxes. The tremors and shakes go away, in time. Maybe because of the drink, maybe because of the company. He found her right when she started to hyperventilate, helping her calm herself down before taking her to the cafeteria. She hopes she hasn't gotten in trouble with Dr. Ikari, but he reassured her that she understood. How are you feeling? He asks. She looks up at the stoic, bearded visage across from her. A little better. Really? Gendo Ikari asks. No. She sighs, staring into the coffee as if it held the secrets of the universe. Closing her eyes, bowing her head, her teeth clatter as she takes a shaky, unsure breath. Hands folded in front of him, the Supreme Commander of Nerve nods his head, a small grin appearing on his face. You're worried about him, he says. She nods, digging her nails into her palms. We wouldn't send him out to die, he says, we will do everything in our power to make sure he comes home. This will not be easy, though. And if he is worried about you, I think he will not be able to focus. She looks up, eyes red and puffy, hands shaking as she tries to wrap them around the cup. I will admit, Gendo says, that no one here has given the children the attention they deserve. I will admit that the way Dr. Ikari and I sent Shinji to live with his relatives while we raised Rei could have been done better. I will admit that most of the time I give off the impression I want nothing to do with either of my children. But that is simply who I am. I do not know your mother, your brother, or you, so I cannot say whether we are the same or different. But let me ask you, why are you so concerned with him? Her mouth opens and closes, trying to find the proper word. Because he's nice to me, she says. Elaborate. Her hands twist, a small smile crossing her lips. Because he stood up to my mother, she says, because he convinced Miss Katsuragi to let me live with them. Because he doesn't hold stupid things I do against me. Because he introduced me to his friends. Her cheeks flush red, her smile a little wider. Because he says I'm pretty, she says, softer, because he likes having me around. Shinji is not good at making friends, Gendo says, hands folded, face thoughtful. That he has extended his hand to you means he does consider you a friend. If you wish to help him, you should talk with him before he leaves. She nods. Sliding the chair behind her, she stands, bowing respectfully. Thank you, Commander, she says. I hope Dr. Igari isn't upset with me. She is, he says. Go. She walks out, quickly. Sighing, he takes off his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Checking his watch, grimacing, he stands. 1 hour left. He really hopes he won't have to bury his son. The entry plug spins into place. Grunting, Yuri fixes the connectors to his hair, seizing the butterfly controls and closing his eyes. The presence inside probes and pushes, as it is wont to do. Gritting his teeth, he drives it back, and lets his mind seize control. Synchronization holding at 54%. Unit O2 activated. The great machine lurches as it stands upright, locked into place in its carriage as they prepare to move him to the elevator. Focusing through the optics, he raises an eyebrow, magnifying on the image of the catwalk in front of Unit O1's cage. He sees his sister and the third, activating a connection to nearby mix to listen in. Be careful, Asuka says. Come back from this. Okay? Ali, Shinji says, and smiles, placing his hands on her arms. I will. I will. A smile passes between the two, and he breaks off, walking to his entry plug as Asuka walks back into the lifts to Dogma. Cutting the connections to the mix and turning back to the tasks at hand, he closes his eyes and waits. He really does have to talk with Ikari about his sister. So. Yes, Ray. I've been thinking. About? Silence, clicking of her tongue. Stuff. A sigh. Ray, that's not really making much sense. I know. A sigh, soft, maybe a little sad. I don't make much sense. Well, that's okay. You have a point. We really have trouble. Ray, do you know why we avoid you? Because I don't make much sense. Kind of tend not to, either. He sighs, resting his head on his hands. She is silent, and because of the non-existence of their state, he can't tell her mood. It's fun, isn't it? What is, Ray? Not making sense. I like it. Lets me go places. Such as? Here. Have you ever been eaten by an angel? Nor we getting out of this? But you have to promise something. Or I go to jail? Okay. What? Are you afraid of heights? Silence. He nods. Too bad. The screen in Central Dogma lights up. A full three-dimensional image of the angel appears. The drill that its lower part has become almost breached to the last 3 armor layers. Misato growls under her breath, as Kaji steps up next to her, raising an eyebrow and chuckling. What are you doing here? She asks. Observing. He responds, Special Inspector, remember? And, I'm here for the JSSDF. They're going to deploy a nice surprise for Nerve which should help. Tanks? Oh, no, he says, and clicks his watch, a display appearing showing a phone symbol. Chief, this is Agent. Commander and Dr. Igari have approved of deployment. Get Rusty and Big Guy prepped. Rusty, this is Sync. The ball is filled with the link and we have a green light for deployment. Get inside and let's get moving. Climbing into the empty compartment at the top of the giant robot's head, she flips open a switch next to the ladder. Underneath her, a circular plate irises and opens into a tub of blue, thick slime. Based on the properties of nerves LCL, she sighs, makes sure her filters are working, and dives in. The iris closes after her, sucking out the air. It serves as a connection liquid and as a shock absorber. Because she is going to be getting one hell of a shock soon. Twisting in the spherical chamber, she swims through the thick, syrupy liquid into the raised chair at the center, sidling into the seat and flattening her back. Wires snap out, connecting to the shoulders of her armor, as raised red connectors reach from the folds of the cushions to connect with open receiver ports in the small of her back. Resting her hands on the edges of the armrests, the spherical handholds glow in tune with the slits on her armor. The opaque screen in front of her flashes, blurs, and reveals the launch bay. Biolink established, the soft female voice announces, Meta-encapsulated granular awareness system, online. Preparing launch sequence. T-3 minutes until catapult charged. EVA launch. Sudden acceleration, a grunt, and Unit 01 is topside once again. Gripping the hollowed-out space shuttle in its hands, it begins running. In the distance, the great blue diamond turns, the drill hesitating as it rises, and its skin begins to fracture. In the entry plug, Shinji grits his teeth and digs the heels into the ground, just as confirmation is given of Unit 02 reaching the surface. The angel shatters, reforming into a massive spear. Pink light gathers at the spear tip before lancing out and hitting the shield full-on. Grunting, feeling his hands burn, Shinji orders the EVA to bend its knees, press its shoulder against the shield, and press on. One step at a time, one motion at a time. He hears the orders as Uri connects the power to the positron cannon, grinds his teeth against the pain, remembers his promise. He will make it home. He will make it home. Firing sequence in 3-2. The barrel tip of the cannon flashes, the city behind it going dark before lancing out into a beam of perfect blue, passing the distance in the fraction of a second towards the heart of the Angel of Thunder, and washing against a hexagonal field. It's at field still up, Shinji says, eyes going wide as the molten shield falls to the ground. Oh, no, Yua whispers, eyes going wide in dogma, get them back. This isn't working. Whirling, she turns on Kaji and Misato, pointing to the unshaven man. We need your backup, right now. Still 1 minute to charge, he growls, they don't have that long, do they? From her station, Maya turns as power meters on the screens rise to capacity. The Angel's charging its primary weapon. The Angel breaks apart again, 3 great blue prongs surrounding a cube surrounding the red core. Light surrounds it, gathering at 2 points, pointed at both EVAs. In the entry plug, Shinji's breathing goes shallow. He is not going to survive this. His mind flashes towards the funeral, assuming anyone survives long enough to give one. He flashes towards the crying crowds, towards his mother weeping, towards Asuka. Its at-field is still up. The Angel uses an at-field and drops it when firing. It can't raise the at-field and fire at the same time. Knuckles, white, grip the controls. His eyes glow in tune with the circle on his chest as the computer clicks off, his sync ratio rising. Unit 01 thrusts out its hands and the sky turns purple, the light gathering around Ramiel dispersing like sand in a storm. Advancing, digging heels into the ground and streets, a small grin crosses his face as the at-field of Unit 01 and the at-field of Ramiel come into contact with each other. He's forcing it into a tug-of-war, Ritsuko says, staring at the numbers reading off of Maya's console. It can't fire its weapon while it has to keep its at-field up. Problem is, Kyoko growls, it has a stronger field than either of us. We need to bring it down to kill it. Kaji checks his watch, grins, and wraps an arm around Misato's shoulder. Lucky for you, the JSSDF wants to solve that problem, he announces. Kyoko growls, folds her arms, and glares at the agent. I fail to see how a few tank rounds can break down in that field. How about 35,000 tons of giant robot fired out of a railgun at Mach 12? Maya taps her screen, brings up a calculator and does the math. That'll work. The sabot round closes around jet alone. Between the two great prongs of the electromagnetic railgun jutting out of the orbiting station, she brings up the zoom display to find herself facing down the great diamond over Tokyo 3. Rusty, this is sync. Catapult charged and target is locked on. Give the word. Underneath the helmet, suspended in liquid, and her mind linked to the jet alone prime, she grins. This, she thinks, is the moment she's lived for. Launch me. From the heavens, a thin beam of blue dances along the surface of Ramiel. The angel, curious, distracted, turns its attention from the imitations pestering it towards the gentle light. Expanding its mind, it lets its senses wander into the upper atmosphere. And then wisely brings them back. The diamond shatters, and forms into a block pointing upwards, concentrating its field into a solid wall. The clouds split. The air catches fire as if struck by flint, and a missile twice the size of an Evangelion drags clouds behind it as it slams into the field. The ground shakes, windows in every building above ground shattering as the missile collapses and two gunmetal grey fists slams into the field. The field rips and shatters, Ramiel tilting back as the mecha kicks off of it and flies back. Dazed, angered, the form of the angel becomes a great diamond once again, apart in its middle for the core as it concentrates its power. Rising, hovering, it gathers light upon its space. It is done playing, it is done defending and attacking. Now, it will strike, gathering its entire strength into a single blast to breach the egg of mother and annihilate the Lilim spawn below it. The core rotates. Its gaze comes upon two Lilim standing in the cavity of its heart. The female hands her hands behind her and is smiling, rocking on her feet. What you doing? The male walks up next to her, staring upon the core of Ramiel with open jaw. So that's the core of the angel? He asks. Ren nods. And we're inside it, right? This is, like, its container, right? Yeep, Re responds. Kensuke scratches his chin, folds his arms, and smirks. And it can't do anything to us, right? From in here? Nope. The core, the mind, the soul, lets its gaze wander over the two Lilim. It cannot destroy them from here, but they are no threat. In fact, as it scans over them and dismisses their presence, its gaze wanders to the female, down to its very cells and... Oh, the mind of Ramiel says. So, since I kind of dragged you along, you get to decide how I kill it. Kensuke nods, and leans in, whispering in her ear. Her face goes from puzzled, to surprised, to finally with an ear-to-ear grin before she pulls Kensuke into a hug. I like you. She shouts, we're gonna have so much fun together. Oh, Ramiel repeats. Re slams her foot down, forming a ramp from the material of blue crystal. Trotting back, she cracks her knuckles, rolls her shoulders, and takes off in a run, running up the ramp and leaping towards the core as it finds the proper word to pair with its previous thought. Shit. Re brings her fist back, one hand open and forward. The silence and whine of the field wrapping around Re's fist is broken by a mighty shout that lifts up the heavens. For Aelkin. There is a flash of light and a quarter of Ramiel's core shatters, ejected from its side like a pissed-off volcano. The Angel of Thunder lists, tipping forward as it drunkenly begins descending, the light vanishing from its bottom point as it begins scrapping along the rooftops of apartment buildings. Inside Unit O2, the power meters read green, and with a thought the red Evangelion picks up the positron cannon and aims it as Ramiel descends towards him. Got you, Yuri growls, and depresses the trigger. Oa, the half-blasted away mind of Ramiel slurs, Oa. Thought hurt. Confused. maybe inebriated. Remember fist hitting mind and part of mind not being there. Hey! What is that going around me? It is cool and breezy. I will call it air. Air. And what is that coming at me? It is big. And it is round. I will call it ground. Ground. And what is that? It is pretty and it is bright. I will call it light. I wonder if it will be my friend. The blast of the positron cannon fills the cavity, hitting the core dead on and vaporizing it. With the destruction of the core, the entire form shrieks, folding in one itself, becoming a multi-pointed star, before shifting into a sphere, and then a cloud of mirrors before returning to the form of the closed diamond. The back of Ramiel blasts out like a skull from a suicide bullet, and the entire form lists before dropping down in the heart of Tokyo 3. Silence reigns, city quiet and blacked out. Then a pale fist punches out a section of one of the sides, and Re walks out, Kensuke on her heels. An elevator lift disguised as a street vendor opens up, Yui coming out first, staring at Re as she waves towards them. Sorry we're late, Re calls out, we got stuck in the Angel. That was F_awesome. Kensuke screams, we should do this again. Yui palms her face. Gendo walks up next to her, rubbing her shoulders with a small grin painting his features. She's made a friend, he says. God help us all, she sighs, we need to finish the first draft of the Dear Mr. Aida, we're sorry for your loss letter. Next to her, Sub-Commander Fuatsuki sighs and smiles, a wistful look on his face. Ah, young love and first crushes, he says, if only I was 16 again. And a woman. Somewhere between Dr. Saha congratulating Uri on his first angel kill and Asuka looking like she was ready to tackle Shinji, the pilot of the now kneeling jet alone climbed out. Climbing on top of the massive mecha's head and walking across the shoulder, she taps her foot and a metal line drops out and towards the ground. Grabbing it, she slides down it, landing in a crouch and walking towards the assembled nerve officers. Quite an entrance, Pilot, Kaji says with a grin, walking to her and patting her on the shoulder. Thank you, Kaji, she responds, rolling her shoulders and letting her gaze wander over the assembled staff. The commanders, the 3 chiefs of Project E, the tactical chief and the pilots. A nice welcoming committee, all considered. The JSSDF will be loaning Jet alone primed to nerve, Kaji explains, as a sort of peace offering. With Jet alone comes its pilot. Introduce yourself, kid. Reaching up, she depresses 2 buttons on the base of her jaw. A hiss of steam escapes as the clamps holding the helmet release. She pulls off the helmet and pulls back the black hood covering the top of her head. Red hair falls to her shoulders, blue-green eyes and an almost boyish face displayed before she clicks her heels together and brings her hand up in a salute by her brow. Captain Mana Kirishima, JSSDF, she says, reporting for duty, Commander.